Well, it's very similar, and not to negate what has happened here in New York, an outgrowth of stop and frisk is actually ensnaring young people who are undocumented. The moment that they are run through the system, they're flagged, so they become deportable, even if they're residents of the United States. Once you are convicted of an offense, and it could be a very minor one, it could be an aggravated felony or misdemeanors, that can actually revoke your residency and make you deportable.
Let's talk about Violence Against Women's Act.
Yes.
Now, we know the Republicans in Congress have refused to reauthorize this. What is the problem? Well,
it's the House of Representatives that has the problem at this stage. We're fortunate in that the Senate ultimately has passed the Violence Against Women Act. Again, you know, this all falls into line with the way that the Republicans have been conducting themselves in the House of Representatives. There has been a war on women. It's very obvious. You know, when you look at the commentary in this last political season of many of the Republican candidates about women's reproductive rights and you know, just a whole host of issues that we have been struggling with, this is very much in keeping with the philosophy that they have espoused. And one of the areas that they have had particular issue with in the Violence Against Women Act is the protections given to Native American women in reservations, and their ability to bring charges against individuals who may be non-Indian, non-Native, and brought to reservations before tribal tribunals. That was something that some of the Republican members were against, as well as protecting women who are gay, LGBT women. They didn't want to extend those protections to those women at all. So, I mean, I just think that, you know, it speaks to a lot of the bias, a lot of the discrimination that has characterized many within the Republican Party, that we're at this stage where it's now in the court of the House of Representatives, and we have members, particularly in the Republican Party, who still stand in the way of its passage.
What do you see as the likely and hopefully soon to be accomplished outcome?
Well, you know, the Speaker has had to make a number of maneuvers over the past couple of months since the beginning of the session, where he's able to find reasonable Republicans, work with the minority to pass legislation, and unfortunately that may be the only pathway to getting a lot of this legislation done. The Violence Against Women Act is actually at the point of where it needs to be reauthorized. It was the law of the land, and unfortunately it had a sunset provision in it, which to me doesn't make any sense, and that needs to be dealt with. But be that as it may, we have a pathway to passing this legislation. It's really up to the Speaker to demonstrate leadership and courage to bring it before the body for a vote.
I told some people that we were going to be discussing this, and someone sent this question: why is it that it only specifies women when we know that men are also victims of abuse?
Well, you know, we know that women have traditionally not had the type of force of law behind the types of violent acts that have been perpetrated against them.
Yes.
And, you know, women in our civil society have for a long time been discriminated against. When you go back into the annals of our history, we know that women were seen as property to the men that they were married to. This is all an evolutionary process, and we need to be able to provide, particularly for women, this extra added specter of protection, so that, you know, they can go on to live their lives and be productive in our civil society, not fearing any retribution that may come from either the men in their lives or men within their sphere of operation.
Recently, Rihanna reconciled with her abuser.
Yeah.
And said that his actions were perhaps a result of his experiences growing up. How does the Act educate women that situations like this perpetuate this pattern of behavior and does not really protect them?
Well, listen, each woman has to go through their own experiences, unfortunately. All we can do is provide for them what the statistics have said, what has been a pattern and practice of abusers, and then they will be the determinations of their fate, the determiners of their fate. Yes. It is important that women find the ability to come together, to have these conversations, and I think that this act creates that space for medical professionals to be able to engage women and provide them with the information they need to be safe.
Yes, there are some statistics that say that lower income women are 3 times the risk of being abused, and as a result of that, more likely to stay with their partner because of their economic dependence.
That tends to be one of the challenging pieces, and one of the things that has been very helpful in a city like New York is that we have created safe havens for women in those types of circumstances where they can leave and enter into a transitional housing environment that helps to equip them with the skills to actually be out there and able to make it on their own without being concerned about the economics of it all.
We know that there are these orders of protection that are meant to protect women.
That's
but
right.
What else is there?
Well, again, I think that there have been a number of what I would consider to be progressive programs, particularly those that enable women to leave their abusers and get into a system that protects them and their identities and gives them the support system they need to start anew in another place, another city, another town, and we need to maximize on those types of programs that give women safe haven.
Going back to the Violence Against Women's Act, are there any new benefits or changes that may be included in its renewal or reauthorization?
From what I understand, the main provisions that were added to this was that for Native Americans and women in the LGBT community.
Why wouldn't the Republicans just amend the bill or introduce a new bill to deal with that? Just make that not a problem at all.
Well, listen.
Maybe I shouldn't be asking you that question.
Yeah, it's almost rhetorical, but, again, there has been a consistent drumbeat from the Republican Party, in particular, the men of the Republican Party, that has been very hostile to the growth and development of women in our civil society, that has, for a party that wants government out of their lives, they've seemed to find ways in which to impose government into the lives of women through their rhetoric. And so I just think that there are just some issues that they need to deal with, but we need not be obsessed with or distracted by, but to focus on what we know makes all the difference in a civil society such as ours.
Many men are ordered to attend some type of anger management programs. But what do you think about systems that could be in place for men to recognize that they have a problem and to be able to deal with these problems? I know you're not a sociologist or a psychologist.
Right.
You may have been asked this question, by members of your own constituency.
Well, I just think that it's important that peer pressure be applied oftentimes. And unfortunately, there are situations where there can be interventions, but I don't know whether it's the male ego or it's just not a topic that men tackle one with another. But I think that can be a place where we can make some strides, is creating sort of a peer group scenario or peer groups throughout, whether it's through our clergy, or through other social organizations that men avail themselves of, where we can have those